Hello, welcome everybody to this session on Netskope Advanced Analytics. Today, we are going to look at CISO dashboard. My name is Anand Murugesan, Director of Products at Netskope. Today, I'm going to give a quick introduction to Netskope Advanced Analytics. The process of collecting data from multiple siloed security products is pretty disparate. It creates information silos. Data aggregation is a manual task, and typically customers require an SIEM system, and in that system, they do data curation, classification, and schema creation. On top of that, the business analysts spend countless hours to generate insights from this data. This disparate nature of the reports collection is pretty complex, and aggregation is a slow process. SIEM systems are typically expensive, and it requires specialized skills to operate, and making sense of the data also requires specialized data skills. Not only that, getting insights out of these systems requires hours of business analysts, data analysts time as well. Let me introduce to Netskope's Advanced Analytics. This is a cloud-native elastic platform, which is built to do automatic data aggregation using the data pipelines, and the data is collected into a elastic data lake. The data is actually then curated and classified, and a very user-friendly schema is getting created for our customers to get the insights. Not only that, our business analysts and data experts have created a lot of out-of-the-box dashboards through which customers can derive insights right away. This is a very easy system. And not only that, it's very economical in the sense that you don't need to procure a separate SIEM system and maintain those. It's pretty agile in the sense that when there is an incident that you want to drill into the details of the incident, all the drill-ins are available for you within a couple of mouse clicks, right? That makes the system very elegant for you to use. To sum it up, this platform helps you discover and identify the risks and analyze and identify your blast radius, then helps you plan for mitigation steps in terms of coaching and controlling, you're protecting the data. And not only that, it provides you a continuous monitoring loop. Security posture improves incrementally by following the cycle. Today, Neil Thakur, Chief Information Security Officer at Netskope, is here with us to walk us through the CISO dashboard.
Okay, so here we have the CISO dashboard. This covers the top OUs across the organization. And this is the value dashboard that typically is presented to the CISO of the organization, showing the value of Netskope. So this has been a key requirement for a number of organizations so that they can actually show the effectiveness of Netskope. So as we start off at the top, we can go through and look at, again, specific tiles that talk about, again, a number assigned to certain types of events and incidents that are being generated. So here we'll have the total threats defended this period. Again, this is a collation of those numbers. And also we can see a trend. So we can compare this to a previous period in time. We also have, again, policies triggered, and this gives the opportunity to showcase that, again, policies are working, they're being effective. Obviously, it gives the opportunity to drill down into which policies are triggering. So looking at the quantity of policies, what is the most effective versus what are policies not being triggered. We also have a fan focus here on the total number of users protected. Again, this is great for an organization that is, again, going through a rollout of Netskope. So they can see that, again, the majority of their workforce, their employees, are being protected by Netskope. And that number, of course, in the early stages of the rollout will increase over a period of time. Just gives some assurance to the CISO that, again, things are going in the right direction. And then, of course, I think one of the most relevant pieces of data is, again, knowing how many applications are being accessed and consumed by the organization over a period of time. Again, this is a stat that I know we regularly refer to as part of our kind of threat report, but it's also really interesting to use this as part of, again, a CISO dashboard. So that, again, if a CISO is ever asked how many applications, how many cloud apps are being consumed by the organization, they can go straight to this dashboard and they can see that number. Again, it doesn't really give you more information than that, but it just gives you those high-level numbers to show, again, the value, the impact that Netskope is bringing to that organization. We then kind of move on to the trend of threats and adoption. So this kind of breaks down, again, looking at threats specifically, policies, the users and the applications, and how that number has changed over a period of time. So in this situation, again, the past 90 days. Again, you're looking for anomalies here. You're looking where there's been perhaps a peak, specifically in either kind of threats or applications. And it will be key for, again, the CISO to try to articulate what generated that peak. And of course, the same for, again, a drop. For instance, if the users were not being protected, then again, you would basically want to observe and identify why that occurred. Again, was there a change to, again, the perhaps an agent rollout, or was there a change based on perhaps a policy, or was there even a misconfiguration of one of those policies? And then what we're doing is we're looking at this from the second tile on the right there, looking at the trend of threats for the top 5 OUs. So something we were very conscious is making this a global dashboard. And obviously what you'll see is that the majority of organizations in the EU, or generally across EMEA, and also in other countries that have very strict privacy laws, there needs to be a focus more on kind of OU and department level threats, rather than making this very specific to the employee. So, for instance, the example we always have is that organizations, and especially CISOs, are very conservative when it comes to kind of any type of monitoring of employee activity. They'll have workers' councils in place, privacy teams, data protection officers, that all highlight that it is absolutely warranted when there's a potential security incident. But for reporting, for tracking, it isn't something that is possible. So this is why we've broken this down to focus specifically on, again, OU rather than specific employees. And of course, this may change. This will be for, again, specifically for those countries where there is those tight requirements, those privacy concerns, privacy by design principles. For, of course, other countries, then again, the changes can be made to this to include, again, specifically user and employer activity. So again, these are very high level numbers, again, looking at trending, looking at changes, looking at why those changes occurred. And then we go through and break these down into specific areas. So for instance, data protection. So starting off, looking at the total number of violations this period, and again, how that compared to, again, a previous period. Looking at also again, going back to the OUs, the number of DLP alerts per OU. So, and this will give you again, an immediate indicator where there's a potential issue, perhaps where there needs to be more focus, more stricter policy, perhaps again, review of those policies to ensure that they're appropriate and adequate, and they're not blocking kind of business processes. But then also looking at the types of categories of DLP alerts as well. So again, was this in relation to cloud storage or webmail or collaboration? So the actual category of applications themselves. So again, that's a good starting point, very high level in terms of data protection. And of course, you can go through and drill down into, again, the specific critical higher level type activities. The next section focuses on kind of threat protection, and this is broken across 2 types of threat protection. So you have your malware alerts, and then you have your malicious site alerts. And again, broken down by the OUs based on malware alerts and malicious site alerts, and then also the categories of malware alerts and malicious site alerts. So again, you've got that good visibility into this from a threat protection perspective. Next, it's looking at specifically policy violations. So again, in this scenario, we're looking at the top 5 OUs where there's been a significant policy violation. Again, and also the type of violation. Was it a block? Was it a quarantine? Was it an alert? Was there some coaching? We actually expect this to be quite colourful in relation to organisations looking, especially from a CISO view. I think they'll be looking to see a number of different types of alerts and types of violations being presented here, and what's working per region. Because culture is obviously very different, for instance, compared to from the US to Asia to Europe. Again, there may be, again, this will be a good measurement to see what is actually being effective, specifically around things such as user alert and coaching. So including this metric here is very important. And then looking at the right, we then have the top 5 policies triggered. So again, going into some of the details around which policies are actually firing most frequently, and even having the opportunity to drill down here and actually look at the policies that perhaps are not firing or not being triggered based on this. And then we have next around the overall network traffic. So this is looking at the kind of trend of allowed and blocked traffic over that past 90 days. Again, this will potentially showcase any issues that need to be investigated, specifically on kind of blocked traffic. So was there a change that was made? Was there an attack that was identified based on this? Was there an insider threat, for instance, that was identified as part of this? And this will give you that, again, that good measurement. It can also be considered a health status, a health monitor, to show that, again, the levels of traffic are following each other. And again, you can see in this example, again, you can see upward trend both of allowed and blocked traffic. So that highlights that the traffic profile, again, is following a similar path. And on the right then, you're looking at, again, the actual traffic itself, the sites that are blocked or allowed. So again, specifically for the, again, next-gen secure gateway customers, including this type of measurement on the CISO dashboard to show where there's potential focus needs to be made on one of these categories. And you can see here, you would be expecting security risk to be blocked. As a CISO, you might want to investigate why there's certain sites being allowed as part of security risk. You may also want to go through and kind of work with specific stakeholders across the organization. For instance, if you're blocking marketing applications and services, you may want to check why those are being blocked and work closely with the marketing team to evaluate the policies in place there. And then next we have, again, risky applications. So this is looking at, again, breaking this down into the list of unsanctioned applications. So applications that haven't been vetted or approved by either IT or the information security team. And just looking at kind of their usage. So looking at data flow, so bytes uploaded, bytes downloaded. But then also looking at this across again, the type of OU as well. So looking at the potential types of risk that are being associated through the use of unsanctioned applications. And then on the right, we also have this broken down into, again, the specific categories of those applications as well. So again, you could say that for day-to-day consumer activity, there may not be an issue, but if you're seeing kind of these applications and unsanctioned high-risk applications with poor ratings being used for knowledge management or content management, whatever type of categories are shown here, again, that could be an indicator that requires investigation. And then finally, again, to keep this a very concise and simple dashboard, we're focused heavily on looking at the location. So looking at where alerts are being generated from, so that, again, an organization can look across the globe and aim to triage where they potentially see some unusual activity. So again, this could be for organizations that are global in nature, and they have known areas where they would be typically expecting to see these alerts, but they may want to look at countries where they do not expect to see some of these alerts and aim to, again, perform quick triage on this. There's lots of examples where this could be take place. Again, perhaps they're looking at activities in China or Russia as one example. Again, this would highlight where there's those concerns. And then finally on the right, you can also see, again, just again, almost like a health dashboard to look at also where your employees are connecting from. So the users by location. Again, not specific down to individual users, but just giving, again, a good visual representation of where users are connecting from, which, again, very similar to the alerts by location, would give you an instant kind of indicator if there was unusual activity connecting from a certain location where you typically don't do business. So again, this would give you, again, a good starting point to perform triage. So that's the CISO dashboard with, again, a focus on the OUs, broken down based on, again, the high-level numbers, showing the value to the CISO or the Netskope technology. Looking at data protection, so breaking this down into specific DLP alerts based on the OUs and also the categories. Threat protection across malware and malicious sites. Looking at policy violations, showing what policies are working and which policies perhaps need tuning or reconfiguring. Looking at network traffic, again, high level for next-gen secure gateway customers, and also looking at risky applications and the locations of employees.
Neil, this is great. Could you also show us how do we drill down into these dashboards to kind of derive investigative analysis and insights? These dashboards are great. It saves us tons of hours. But one of the key things about these dashboards is that you can actually interact with the dashboard, drill down into them, and learn more about these insights and kind of like drill down, hone in on some of the problem areas or identify the blast radius and whatnot, right? So could you kind of throw some more light into those aspects as well?
Okay, so with each tile, we can also drill down into, again, specific elements. So for instance, if I wanted to take a look at the data protection section, and I wanted to look at the OUs by DLP alerts, I can just hover over and I can see the number of alerts that have been generated. A simple click and it will load and showcase the events that have been generated. So I can look through and I can look at the timestamp. I can look at the access method. So was this, again, a client to cloud connectivity? What type of traffic was this? Was this, again, web traffic or cloud application traffic? The application itself. So in this example, Google Drive, of course, the user. And again, this could be, of course, obfuscated to protect the employee. And also, again, the site. In most cases, this is going to mirror the application. But then also the activity. So I can see what the activity that was generated and how, for instance, this is relevant to looking at a type of incident, because I would need to know if this was an upload, a download, what the potential exposure was for the organization. And of course, was it, in this case, it's always going to be a DLP alert type, but I can create and customize a new tile that focuses on other types of alerts. I can also see the policy name that was triggered, the object name. So again, relating this back to a specific file, details on the file size, etc. So again, it gives me a good confidence relating to this. And of course, I could reuse this information to go and look for that file existing elsewhere on my network to identify the actual the details relating to this. So as you can see, it's very easy to do that. I can also download those results. I can import these into an incident response document, and I can then also flip over and look at the other types of alerts that have been generated. So for instance, if I'm looking now at threat protection, I can quite quickly take a look and see where, for instance, where I've had some specific ransomware type incidents, and I can go through and do a quick click on these, and I'll have that, again, that visibility into this. So you can see that once it loads, I've got again, very similar information. I can see the event timestamp, I can see the access method. So in this example, it was the API connector straight into 365 OneDrive for Business. I can see the user potentially impacted, and I can see this was picked up as part of a scan. I've got the malware as being the alerts. I've got the ability to highlight that the action was a detection only. And of course, the file name that was impacted and the file size. So again, I get that information available from the drill down. I can also take a look at this from looking at trending, looking at this type of analysis, where I can also start going through and looking at changes in behavior. So again, I've got these reports that are available, and I can look at specific event weeks. I can go to this by event date and try to identify why that, for instance, that change occurred. So you can see here, again, I've got much more detailed information per day, and I can start going through and looking at the specific activities here. Okay, so here you can see there's lots and lots of records, but what I can do is, again, I can sort specifically on any one of these items. I can go through and look at the number of events. I can start going through and looking at, again, specific sites and applications, and perform my kind of initial review from here. Of course, at this point in time, I could be obviously directly consulting with the security operations team, my SecOps function, to go through and perform, again, further analysis here. And then finally, again, looking at specific areas, again, I can start expanding out and looking at specific alerts by location. I can go and zoom in on specific countries. I can look at types of activity, again, state-based. activity. And I can also start going through and looking at, again, overseas activities also. And the same for users by location. So again, I can get much more detailed and more visual representation of that activity. Of course, I can also go through and download the data, so I can get more, again, detailed information that way. But in summary, again, this is the kind of the drill down functionality available with the CISO dashboard. So what we can also do with each tile, we can customize this tile. So for instance, if I wanted to look at the number of policies triggering and what policies were actually being triggered, I could go into this. I would get access to the information here. And what I can do is quite simply, I can take a look at the add in the policy and add in the policy name. And I would then get the alerts policy name within the field. And if I just run this, I'm still going to get my 93 policies, but I can now have this broken down into, again, the specific policy names that were triggered. So that's how simple it is to kind of, again, manage and adjust these tiles based on your specific requirements.
Thank you for your time today. See you soon with another great video like this.